Because we see something every day, we often take it for granted. What's familiar becomes commonplace. This is the story about a car that very nearly didn't happen. In the beginning, there was a man who dreamt of a car for the people. The only good successful dream Hitler ever had was the Beetle, which went on to become the most popular car in the world. By the late 60s, VW realized they had relied on their pensionable cheer-up a decade too long. In the early 70s, they were seriously in the shabby dip. Their model range was dull, and there was a worldwide energy crisis which saw a hike in oil prices.
What sort of things do people say to you when they come in to buy a car nowadays?
Gas mileage, that's the number one topic.
The limited production of oil, coupled with the rising price of a barrel, resulted in an international recession.
The other day, a lady came in driving a big Buick. It was the biggest car Buick makes. Big, heavy lady with her fur coat and her rings and her jewelry and her 3 big, heavy friends. And they come down here with their big car and they pull on the lot and they want to see a Mazda station wagon, which is a small car. The 3 of them couldn't get into the car at one time. They were stuffing them in the door and they were just sitting scrunched up in there and they couldn't drive the car even. But this is what she wanted because she was concerned about the gas mileage. You know, she could afford the bigger car, and she couldn't even fit in the smaller car, but that's what she wanted because when she had to go someplace, she was going to squeeze into it or put that car on and she was going to whip down to the store. But now she'll buy the little car, but she's going to have to lose some weight or something first. She's having trouble getting in it.
The effects of the recession were felt globally as both inflation and unemployment skyrocketed. VW was bleeding 800 million Deutschmarks a year. It was time for something completely different. People wanted more economical cars. As early as 1969, they commissioned an air-cooled front-wheel drive Beetle replacement, the prototype of which was strikingly ugly. VW tried again with several prototypes, not altogether successfully. Eventually, German pragmatism gave way to Italian flair. It was Giorgetto Gigaro, co-founder of Ital Design, who came up with the shape of the car that was so perfectly in tune with its times. He also designed the legendary iconic BMW Mark I and the famous DeLorean DMC, which was featured in the blockbuster film Back to the Future in 1985.
Marty, you made it!
Yeah!
Welcome to my latest experiment. This is the big one, the one I've been waiting for all my life.
Well, it's a DeLorean, right?
Bear with me, Marty. All your questions will be answered.
For Volkswagen, the mid-70s were the boom years. They had a massive success on their hands. The world was buying the Golf as if it was the only car on the planet. 2.5 years later, they had sold 1 million cars.
He's off in that new car again. Wouldn't catch me in a Volkswagen.
What's wrong with the Golf?
Well, it's not exactly big, is it?
Actually, it's bigger than it looks.
You'll never get that lot in there. Anyway, I don't like rear-engine cars.
The engine's in the front. It's water-cooled. Back seats go down too.
Yeah, you seem to know a lot about his car. You've been in his car.
The Golf put Volkswagen back into profit, but there were few enlightened souls who reckoned that the Golf was capable of even more. A team of 6 VW Motorsport engineers came up with a brilliant idea. They souped up the Golf and made it go like lightning. They spent their evenings, weekends, and spare time stiffening the car, stripping it out, adding petrol injection, and they instantly created a classic. Surprisingly, the car was to be called the Golf Sport until the name was later changed.
You could buy cars with high acceleration, but these high acceleration cars always have been connected and offered by a brand with a specific image like BMW and Porsche. But a brand which is called Volkswagen, people's car, and to offer people's car with such an advantage in performance was somewhat for us that didn't fit together.
It was one of VW's better decisions because the hot Golf caused apoplexy in the motoring press. Here was a car that was all things to all men, yet without those determined engineers, VW would have let one of the world's greatest cars slip through their fingers. The first GTi squealed on the German autobahns in 1976, and it wowed everybody. Suddenly, the GTi was the happening car of the 80s, thrusting and quick-witted. It became an achiever's car, the ideal accessory for decades. Obsessed with design style and assertiveness, she told us to work hard while she told us to pose hard. The GTi did both. It was a victim of its own success. If you couldn't afford one, you simply helped yourself. Those big three motive letters now became a liability. GTi now stood for Guaranteed Theft Item. Everybody wanted one.
Shais 26, last week I cleared my school trip. Banka I took leave. This week I'm fully my school fees. Step dance and cars. As soon as fully receive. As long as we busy time, mama got promenade beat. Josie my Joes, Nagena Pan and Flesh my teeth. Nakalaga speed, Kasadi change, Natenga my rib. Set that man Jablega so. I'm sure so solar soon. Don't I have something to do? Don't I go to school? It's time you make test for 2 and I don't have the 2. 1 + 1 equals 2. No, no, they got 2. Take it young, they fool. And keep it stressing, they shoot. Standard 10 guy 2. It's an fan used to pull.
Let's keep it cheap, the Pirates gotta go to the game. I'm fully my eyes, keeping on my clipper what you are. Can't do it overtime, cause my auntie she's died. Have to go cry, all they think I'm otherwise.
It's been a tremendous 45 years since the hot hatch hit the streets. It seems like production is not stopping anytime soon. This being the outgoing model, I had a chance to see what the hype about the old car was about. First, the stats compared to the old Mark 6. It's got 162 kilowatts of power and 350 Newton meters. It uses less fuel, accelerates harder, and goes faster. 0 to 100 kilometers an hour takes just 6.4 seconds. This Golf GTi is rammed with more driving gadgets than ever. It's fitted with 2 options that are going to be almost essential to get the most out of your GTi. The first is adaptive chassis control that will set you back a few extra 100 rands. It does then allow you to pick your preferred settings for the gear change, the steering weight, the damper settings, and throttle control. On top of that, you could throw in what's called a performance package that gives you an extra 7 kilowatts of power and a top speed of 250 kilometers per hour. But perhaps more importantly, it provides you with the Golf's secret weapon, an electronically controlled mechanical limited slip differential. What this clever differential does is send just the right amount of torque to each of the 2 front wheels before either starts losing grip and spinning your power away. That means you get maximum grip from your 2 front wheels all the time, so you can hold the car into any corner at any speeds that takes your fancy, knowing you're gonna come out on the other side okay. On wet roads with wet leaves and mud everywhere, this car is as fast as any Ferrari. If you drive a Golf GTi, you're going to get where you're going more quickly, which means you're going to meet more people, have more experiences, learn more stuff, which means speed makes you cleverer.